Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw Review.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max's Raw Review, November 12th, 2016. And this is going to be a fun one, guys. Lots of different things leading up to this new big pay-per-view we're going to be having. Clash of Champions. So we've got a big one to talk about. A lot of different things going on, things added to the card, some different feuds intermingling. It's going to be a good one to talk about tonight, guys. And just to let you know, if you want to find all our other stuff, hey, just go over to www.w2mnet.com, and that's the place to, go find everything that we have. Of course, if you want to go subscribe on whatever podcast network you like to subscribe with, go find the W2M network. That's the place you'll get this show, our SmackDown live review, and of course, our regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max Part 1 and Part 2 during the week. So I want to give you that information a little bit there, guys. But now it's time for us to talk some Monday Night Raw.
Play the tag again.
Oh, man. We have a beautiful
second
tag.
show I keep forgetting to do that on.
Maybe next time I'll remind you. It's hard to remember. Maybe we should slap that on before. We'll get that in editing later.
I need to do that, like, edited into all these intros so we don't have to keep doing it.
Exactly. We'll get it done. But besides all our, behind-the-scenes failures, let's talk about Raw.
Let's do that. So it was live from Baltimore, Maryland, from the Wolf Farms Arena, to be exact, as this was the Raw with the big main event that would decide what kind of match we're getting at Clash of Champions that Gary just discussed. And of course, Skype is also not being kind to you already, Gary. So you were like kind of cutting in and out a little bit here and there. But so is the way of technology sometimes. We don't get to control the way that Skype likes to be an asshole sometimes. But so this show was built around that, and we got a lot of that here. Sorry, I'm trying to sit here and go through and remember exactly how this started. Was it Mick Foley coming out here? And
Yep.
Yeah. So Mick Foley's deal was about the women's title, where he has Charlotte come out with Dana, and I guess Charlotte apologized to Dana. Gary, I'm sorry, I watched bits and pieces of this Raw at times, and I also missed the first 30 minutes because I took too hard of a nap. But it seems like this is all to set up a number one contenders match between Sasha, Bayley, and Dana Brooke, where they just kind of all get into it.
It really just breaks down to, Mick Foley comes out as the GM, of course, and, sets the precedent for discussing the fact that they, their competitor, SmackDown Live, had a big show, pay-per-view yesterday, Backlash, and they wanted to get into that and talk about the fact that, they, happy for Becky Lynch for winning the women's title and all that. That was cool, but now he wants to really discuss his women's division, and so he's talking about, of course, Charlotte, has Charlotte come out with Dana Brooke, and it gives Dana Brooke and Charlotte a little time to converse here because of their issues. And really what it comes down to is there's a little bit of tension there. And then, of course, we get Sasha Banks interrupting, saying that she deserves the next shot, which is understandable. And then Bayley comes in and says, well, technically, I kind of beat Charlotte. I deserve a shot, too. So it brings us all together in a nice little wrap package of, what, is going to happen in the future. Now they're going to, of course, have some things take place before we get to, to the actual match. But I think it's interesting. They had, that interaction I just mentioned between Charlotte and Dana Brooke. We had Dana Brooke actually slapped Charlotte. She got frustrated after being blamed for everything. That was a point where I was kind of sitting there thinking, man, shouldn't there be more of this? I thought Charlotte should attack Dana Brooke. They didn't do that. They just had Charlotte
Well,
look dumb
because
up
they
there.
don't want to just up and this would be two heels going against each other. Like, why would anybody care at that point? You don't have any reason to care about Dana Brooke as far as a sympathetic character right now. You need to continue this having Charlotte badger Dana Brooke for a while.
Are you sure? Because that's pretty sympathetic. People getting torn down. I remember watching TNA and feeling so bad for Rockstar Spud when EC3 would tear him down.
Rockstar Spud's a different character, though.
Dana Brooke, what's the difference?
Dana Brooke makes her name on being a bully. So the Rockstar Spud is an instantly sympathetic character because until he turned heel, he wasn't like that at all. I just think that it's okay to continue this. You don't need 50 stories going around with this. This can be its own thing that's kind of festering for a while. To me, it's just kind of unnecessary to have Dana and Charlotte going at it right now when you've got a bigger deal going on. If you want to have Dana accidentally cost Charlotte the title at Clash of Champions, and that's what starts everything or whatever, then I'm fine with that. But you need to focus this on Sasha and Charlotte right now.
I disagree completely. I think that you don't have to have that formula. We see on SmackDown Live, they have 6 different people, intermingling in different feuds and still at the same point all fighting for one title.
Yeah, but that whole match was built around 6 people fighting for the title at one time. This is 2 people fighting for the title. You don't need 5 stories going on at the same time with those 2 people.
But tonight you had 3 of them facing off against each other to face the one person holding the title that once again. So I just kind of feel like you could do it. It's not a headache. My point is
they don't have to blow up right now.
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry, we're going.
I was just gonna say, Attitude Era WWE booking would disagree with you completely, Sean. They had plenty of people in mixed feuds going across different title scenes. So if they wanted to do that here, I think they'd be okay. It seems like they did the smarter thing here. Like they teased it initially, they had something happen, and then they pulled back on it real fast. So you can keep going back and forth like this you just got to be sure you pull the trigger at Clash, really, and make sure that Dana costs Charlotte the championship.
I get where you're coming from on this, Sean. I really do. Because I get it. You don't want to have focus taken away from the big time.
I do not think that she is sympathetic enough yet. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nobody that cares about Dana right now, but you got to invest in that character up to Clash. And if they do, hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it during the feud.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
And what this all leads up to is that match that does get announced because of the whole slap thing. Immediately, Mick Foley adds Dana Brooke to a triple threat match for basically the number 1 contendership to see who's going to face off against Dana Brooke. So, I mean, and whatever if you want to get into the match, we can. I don't know if you wanted to get into it now.
Go ahead.
But we get into that match. I mean, and for the most part, it was a really well done match. It got plenty of time, and I think everybody got in their stuff. Of course, Bayley and Sasha Banks. You've seen these two go at it for a long, long period of time now. If you watched NXT, so everything was pretty, well done on that part. Dana, of course, throws her stuff in, which is once again not great, but it's there. But at the end of the day, what's kind of interesting in this is Bayley looks like she's going to win. She gets the the Bayley to belly suplex there, and of course she looks like she's going to win, but Sasha knocks her off, rolls her up, and 1, 2, 3. Sasha's going to be the one facing off against Charlotte. So I don't know. I mean, I think that makes sense. We already had Sasha Banks in that little promo kind of say, like, I don't have any friends when it comes to the title. So that already kind of alludes to, sorry, Bayley, but I'll do anything to win.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think, you can make the case that maybe Bayley doesn't need to lose right now. But it's, when they bring up Bayley, the number 1 feud that they want to have is Bayley Sasha on the main roster. So if you're teasing this for later, I don't have a problem with it. Again, like you just said, Gary, it adds to that whole, well, I got you, but, this is about me wanting to be champion, and, you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, these kinds of losses of Bayley getting so close and ultimately failing help add to the underdog aura that they're hopefully going to be able to successfully build around her like they did in NXT.
Yeah, and that's what my goal is here. If you ask me if I'm right in this whole storyline of we're going to build up different things, but it's going to be a little by little to add up to one. And I think that's what they're kind of doing here. I'm happy with it completely because I feel like they actually, for one time on Raw, gave me a version of this division that I'm actually intrigued with compared to what we've got in the past where it's just focused on Charlotte and whoever she's facing. And that gets monotonous. It gets kind of boring, and it doesn't highlight anyone else. So I actually really enjoy this personally.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, they kind of already teased it that it was going to be Charlotte, or not Charlotte, Sasha anyway, but that's good that they addressed the fact that Bayley sort of had already been announced at one point as well, or at least they made you feel like they had already announced her as a number one contender, and then Sasha came back and kind of took it away. At least they just made us forget about that terrible promo she did last week, so that's all that really matters in the end. You also had the next match in the series with Cesaro and Sheamus here. I love the fact that, hey, look, Cesaro's desperate. Okay, he's doing everything he can to win, and he uses the ropes because hell, the guy just wants to freaking win. So I'm totally cool with that. That's and they did it so quick. They immediately played his music so that the crowd didn't have time to think about what just happened. So that you don't have possible, if there's anybody that cares about Sheamus at all, that would possibly think, oh, well, that's a heel move or whatever. Just, okay, it happened, he won, let's go on with the next thing.
Wow, I mean, this to me, at the end of the day, I mean, good match. We always have to say that with these two guys, but at the end of the day, this kind of intrigues me because of the fact that now Cesaro's having to cheat to win, and that's kind of putting over Sheamus. I know, Paul, I know you love Sheamus. This, to me, puts him over even more. A guy like Cesaro is cheating to win.
I think it just plays into the desperation. Cesaro's down 3-1. He needs the win. He's willing to do anything it gets to get that Universal title shot and win the series, and this plays into that, as I think, really well.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too, Gary, and I think in other instances you would have been, I would have agreed with you, but this is just right now. Cesaro is all about, okay, I want to get that title shot, I want to win this thing, and at that point, just like with Sasha, you do anything you need to win, And,
yeah. No, I get that completely, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just the fact that I just think, honestly, if you're doing anything to cheat to win, you are desperate. And not only that, you're kind of saying, look, I've got to find a way to win. I've got to play a Bill Belichick play here to make sure I'm victorious. And that's what he did. He did just what Cartman says, pull a Belichick, and there you go.
What a shot at the Patriots for no absolute reason here.
No, I'm just being. It's being honest, guys. Come on. I mean, how many scandals? Get on Wikipedia. There'll be a page full of them.
A great man once said, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying."
That's true. Exactly. That is true.
That is a great man. Great, and great for Paul to tie it back to wrestling as well. So, I mean, look. Hey, we're all salty about that Patriots win, but it is what it is. So we get. I should have tied this together because we had two women's stories going on here. Of course, you have Nia Jax and Alicia Fox as well, because Nia Jax whooped on Alicia Fox's friend last week, and so now they are going to have this match, and freaking Nia Jax spears Alicia through the barricade, pulling a Roman Reigns herself there. And Alicia Fox ain't getting up from that.
No, she is not. And, man, they replayed this, I think, 15 times. At least it felt like that. This is nothing out of the ordinary what you see with the men. It's basically, every 6 to 8 matches that Roman has, they have one of these. Someone's going to the barricade. Either he is or someone else.
Spear people to the barricade, too.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is nothing out of the ordinary, but for the women's division, it kind of is because, there's not women that big, but Nia Jax is. I do enjoy that part of it. Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, there's not a lot here to talk about, but it's just relaying the fact that they're making Nia Jax look unstoppable. Let's see who the next opponent is to make her look even stronger. But I do like they paid a lot of attention to Alicia Fox's injury and all that. They even have a little footage of her backstage getting in the ambulance, I think, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, it's kind of cool that they have all that added in.
Absolutely. I think the most important part with Nia here is building up her aura more than anything else. So her being this almost unbeatable monster in the women's division is something WWE hasn't had in a long time. Something I think they're doing very well with right now, too. So hats off to him here for doing this.
Yeah, certainly. And, I mean, continuing on with little things that they did here, Braun Strowman didn't have a match on this show. He now has his own sponsored segment. Devour sponsors Braun Strowman killing people. That's what we do here. So while he devours his opponents, you can enjoy him whatever the heck that thing is that's sponsoring the segment. And look, Jinder Mahal got some TV time to have a storyline thing with Jack Swagger, of course. Whenever you have a foreigner, you got to pull in Jack Swagger for the opponent. And Jack Swagger loses to this neckbreaker thing, and Jack Swagger's contract is apparently up pretty soon. I wonder if this is more about him leaving the company entirely, or if this is going to be your first tease of somebody that's going to be leaving Raw to join SmackDown. Certainly would say that SmackDown could definitely use a guy like Jack Swagger.
Yeah, I mean, they could. He's a guy that would definitely fit in the wheelhouse of, being the American guy going over. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised eventually down the line you see American Alpha tag with him for some reason because of the whole American gimmick. But Jack Swagger feels like a SmackDown guy anyway. He does. So I don't think that's a bad fit. Now, is this going to happen? I don't know. They're alluding to it. But, I wouldn't have a problem at all if he went to SmackDown Live.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either, honestly. They need more people over there, and I don't know if Swagger's your answers, everything you need, but he certainly is another guy that you can build up and try to make matter over on SmackDown, where the field is much more open.
And that's what's good about the Miz being the IC champion, because you could build him up for a little bit and instantly put him into a feud with Miz, and people are going to care because you hate Miz so much. Mm-hmm. And people, he still gets the We the People and all that, so people will still care about him in a way. So I kind of do hope that this is the start of, we're going to have some guys, the contracts are running out. Let's see if we do get Daniel Bryan or Shane McMahon getting involved here and seeing if they can get him to go to get him to go to SmackDown, because you kind of need stories like that as well, not just always, okay, here's this guy that used to be here, he's going to come to this show or whatever. Those kind of stories are sort of interesting in that way for this brand split. It gets both the brands involved, and see if you have anybody fighting for Jack Swagger at all, or if Raw's just going to let him walk. They did interview him backstage, and he just huffs him. He's out of breath. He can't say anything. So he doesn't respond to Todd's question. But, I mean, it leaves you intrigued for next week or whatever they're going to do with this, at least.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you like this type of storyline for the... I don't want them to overuse it, but doing it every once in a while, especially for a mid-card guy, I don't think it's bad.
No, I mean, it's fine. I mean, they need to do this kind of stuff if they want to get, once again, these guys involved some way and put some excitement behind them. Because when was the last time we really got excited about Jack Swagger? Maybe We the People, when it was strong with Zeb Coulter. Other than that, yeah, you never think about the guy.
Yeah, I mean, you got these mid-carders, you might as well do something with them, especially when you have 3 hours and a lot of time to build, and why not?
So, aside from Bo Dallas, Bo leaving and Bo, as he continues to squash people, the New Day came out to completely bury the segment from last week that was terrible. Thank God, but I don't know that I needed to be reminded of the fact that you guys were in that segment. But I get it. This is their kind of way of trying to be funny. I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. I like the fact that they kind of got at Anderson and Gallows for, hey, we're the entertainment people here. Don't get involved in our thing. Also, sort of a shot at the elites as well, and them doing their continuing little feud without being a feud that anybody knows about unless you're on the internet. But and then you have I'm gonna guess that they're gonna make it Big E and Kofi at Clash of Champions, because we already did half of New Day here with Kofi and Xavier Woods against Gallows and Anderson. The match was good. I mean, obviously it wasn't anything out of this world or whatever, but do you have a problem with them sort of giving away part of the match here on Raw?
No, I mean, it's okay. It's not that bad. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you kind of seen these guys, right? So there's not like any big surprises. We've seen them battle it out a little bit. So I think they'll be fine. They'll find new wrinkles to add in once they actually get to the big show. But right now, I mean, you have to do this sometimes, because you can't have every one of your feuds just talk and not do anything. It's good to have at least somebody doing something. So.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read of the match, it seems like they're trying to sort of get back on track with Anderson Gallows, cut out the comedy, which is why you had the New Day sort of bash him for how terrible the segment was last week, and reset him into something meaner, which is something I said they needed to do last month. So, better late than never, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. And once again, this is not terrible. This is a little way better than it was last week, of course, like Sean just pointed out. But at the same point, this was nothing over the top, great, funny, or anything. I mean, right now, I don't know what New Day's going to do. I don't know if they're going to find another way to get around to being back to that comedy bit tag team that's really highly entertaining. Or are we heading in a direction of them being more serious? Or is this just a pause button, like we've got to get through this feud, then we'll get back to our regular scheduled gimmick? I don't know, but right now it's just kind of one of those, I'm kind of at a standstill with those guys, because they're okay, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like Paul said, it's about sort of reshuffling them into what makes them work. They did not do any comedy. They immediately went after the crowd, attacked them for their the city being whatever. So that's, I mean, it's cheap heat, but it's a heel tactic that's always worked, and that's what you need. You need the comedy team to, be the comedy team and let them be the faces, and let Anderson and Gallows just be the straight men and be the heels, and it works a lot better than trying to out funny each other. It doesn't. That's just dumb. That would have been like, people trying to out DX in the Attitude Era. It's just not going to work. I mean, imagine if the Nation of Domination would have gone out there and done their own skit. Like, how counterintuitive that would have been to the DX's skit.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say on this tag title feud before we move on here? Silence is golden, I guess. So
I want to, before we talk about it, I do want to say something about Bo Dallas. We talked about it last week's Raw, but do you guys think, I mean, where do you really think that's going? Because I just got to know. I mean, I love aggressive Bo Dallas, but I don't know.
I feel like it's Braun Strowman's first real opponent.
What do you think, Paul?
I don't know if it's Braun Strowman's first real opponent, but it's certainly, I think it's another outlet for them to try to reestablish these guys, try to get some of these mid-carders to matter more, so that way you have somewhere to go once you get outside of Reigns and Rusev, which we sort of retouch on in this show, and other things like that. But if it ultimately does lead to Braun Strowman squashing him, that's fine. But at least you're reestablishing a character.
Fair enough.
Well, guys, I mean, at least to talk about reestablishing characters, at least they tried to reestablish the Shining Stars are all about getting you to travel to Puerto Rico because they were getting Truth a timeshare over there. They give him a pamphlet and everything else. I mean, where's our timeshare over here? Shining Stars. We need our hashtag WTM Puerto Rico.
Man.
Like that you're robbing us of the opportunity to make an investment in your country that you keep telling us to. Don't you want a timeshare, Gary? I mean, it's just.
I've been waiting for it, but I'm still sitting here. I'm waiting at my front door. I'm just thinking these guys are going to show up eventually. Come on, we need our timeshare.
Yeah, we got to live the hashtag, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I thought timeshares went out in like the 80s, but.
I guess not.
Well, I mean, everything else is coming back from the 80s, so I guess why not?
Yep.
They did have a match with Enzo and Epico here. Well, Enzo working a singles match, that you're already kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. I thought it was fine. You kind of knew where this was going to be headed. It was one guy was going to try to cheat, and Cass probably wasn't going to get over there fast enough, or Cass was going to get upset, or whatever it was. We kind of got a little bit of everything here. But, yeah.
This was, I mean, I think the comedy bits work at times, but I mean, Enzo and Kaz, this was not the strongest thing. It was okay. The Shining Stars thing is only interesting because they're finding ways to win. That's about it. I mean, I think this is a nice placeholder, I guess, if you'll say it that way. But let's be honest, we all know what's going to happen. The Shining Stars aren't winning at Clash of Champions, so this is kind of like a softball thrown at Enzo and Kaz.
Yeah, I mean, Enzo's never great in singles matches. He's so much better as a tag guy, and the feud's not really overly interesting, but it is something to keep Enzo and Cass, I guess, sort of busy until they get done with this New Day club feud that's seemingly without end.
Yeah, I mean, you do need to have Enzo and Cass beat other teams and have these other teams sort of matter in a way. You don't want to just have them running through the other teams and then it's like, okay, it's the same circle of 3 teams constantly.
Right.
So you need to make them sort of important. I have no problem with it. I mean, we may not like the storyline. We may even know where this is all headed, obviously. But it's fine for what it is. I like the fact that we're doing stories with some of these mid-card feuds and we're not just circling the wagons and making it all about just the same couple of people. I mean, you got 3 hours, so you're going to have to do this or it's going to get very, very boring. So, speaking of mid-card feuds, Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn going at it basically over Jericho being happy to be Owens' friend and Sami Zayn giving him a reality check about who Owens is and Jericho baiting him into the code breaker. But, we're getting this, what should be a very good match at Clash of Champions. And you'd hope gives Sami Zayn a win over a credible veteran like Jericho.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is actually kind of fun because of the fact that, you kind of got that direction like Sean said. But at the same point, I mean, to me, they put Sami Zayn in a good place to cut a great promo against Jericho. It was funny. It was just something that kind of worked. I mean, and not only that, you kind of get some of the ties between Kevin Owens and Zayn, whereas, why aren't these guys still trying to fight each other? Well, Sami Zayn said it. He goes, I'm done. He goes, I'm done with Kevin Owens. Why did you even call me out here? What's the purpose? So, you kind of knew what was going to happen when they got out there. That's usually what happens with the highlight reels, just sets up something. But at the end of the day, really enjoyed this whole little promo thing. It didn't bore me. I kind of enjoyed the whole segment.
I think this is a feud that makes a lot of sense. Whether Sammy says he's done with Kevin or not, I think eventually they're going to touch on this during Kevin Owens' reign. And having him work with Jericho, I think really adds a lot to whatever you're going to go back and retouch on with Kevin Owens. So I'm all for this. I think it's a good idea.
Wow. Sorry, an idiotic 49ers fan just ran on the field during the game. So they were trying like not to show him, and then the time that they're about to snap the ball, the guy decides to run right across the screen. It's funny. But I think we sort of covered almost all the other, and not to say ancillary, but the things that were not based around the main story. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think everything else was sort of covered here that I'm looking at. So what we have left is sort of everything based around Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, all of that stuff. Owens and Rollins did have a little exchange beforehand where Owens kind of tears down Rollins about him being a failure since he came back, and that he's mad because he's not Triple H's guy anymore, and now Owens is. I wish they would have just had Owens ignore the fact of being Triple H's guy. I just don't necessarily think that we need this storyline again, but it's WWE's tried and true formula. We got to have a corporate guy. We got to have a guy that somebody in the authority figure line likes. So, yeah, I mean it is, but we did get Foley telling Rollins, "Hey, don't get involved in this match. You don't want that." And so we get this match goes really long because they actually have to do it in two matches. Kevin Owens gets Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wins. He gets in to the match at Clash of Champions. The first part was sort of, okay, we're kind of building up to, we know Rollins is going to get involved. Rollins does get involved. Mick Foley comes out to restart the match. Then the second match I thought was a lot better. And Kevin Owens definitively wins thanks to Rusev getting involved and costing a distraction to Roman Reigns. So we get definitively Rollins and Owens as your main event, and you get Roman Reigns and Rusev for the U.S. title. Do you think this is finally the time for Roman Reigns to get another singles title?
What do you think, Paul?
Okay, I don't know. I don't want to see Rusev's reign end, but then again, it might just be because I have absolutely nothing invested in Roman Reigns at this point, and I kind of want to see where Rusev goes. But I think WWE puts a strap on him at Clash of Champions. There's nothing, unless you're willing to rebuild Roman Reigns outside of a championship run, which I don't think they are. I think they're going to put the strap on him and sort of let him feud around that, which might actually bring some interest to the U.S. title. I'm not a fan of the idea personally.
I mean, I just don't know what else you do with Rusev holding it at this point. He's now had 2 reigns with it. I mean, who's there for him really to feud with? You give it to Roman, people don't like him. He's not necessarily the face that you're transitioning to that you would expect normally, but you could put Reigns in a match with almost anyone, and people kind of instantly care just so they have a reason to boo Roman Reigns.
What do you do with Rusev outside of the U.S. title? Because he's been dancing around it since his pretty much call up to the main roster, and there's nobody there on Raw I really feel like is open for a feud with him right now. Unless you have him squash people, which maybe you do.
Yeah, maybe you have to do that. I mean, kind of just have him sort of be around until somebody that's not Kevin Owens is a champion, and you can have Rusev be in a main title feud. It's just, I don't know. Rusev's at that point where he's been mid-card champion so long in his 2 reigns that there's only really one place left for him to go, and it's for him to have a main title feud at a major title feud. But obviously you don't want to do that with Kevin Owens because that's 2 heels going against each other. And then, Seth Rollins is sort of the same thing, unless they turn Rollins at some point. So,
Mm-hmm.
Any thought on that, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I mean, this is to me, it all boils down to we're going to get probably Roman Reigns as the new champion for the U.S. Championship, but then I think eventually he's going to find a way to get back in that main picture. But I just don't know if it's soon. I know they want him there soon, but I think that they're going to do them a lot of good and him a lot of good if they'll put another strap around him and then let him go on from there. If they push him to that main title picture, it's great for him, but it's also not great for WWE in the sense of you're going to have all the mixed reactions again. Make people care. Make him this evil guy. I'm still waiting. Come on. It's just the Usos. I'm loving the Usos now. Make him like the Usos. Come on.
I think you need to wait a little bit so it's not so much like, oh, well, his family turned, he's got to turn too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, and obviously, I think attacking Rusev and turning probably isn't the best thing, but you know, who knows? I mean, they could go a sort of different way. I mean, all they have to do with Roman is because people don't like him so much is just have him just completely decide to just turn on everyone and just start, you know, tearing down the fans and everything else, and then you'll get the kids booing him, and that's kind of all you got left with Roman. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not that hard. It's just whatever they want to do here. If they want to keep forcing this or if they want to kind of go with the natural hand, it's just on them. But moving into the main title picture, you know we're going to get a great match with Owens and Rollins. But how do you like how they've sort of set this up and kind of where they're headed going into having another week before you get to the pay-per-view?
I mean, to me, I think they really honestly did a pretty decent job tonight of setting some things up. I guess in a way, I kind of look at it as, are they going to find a way to kind of make us either have a drop-off before we get to the big show? I kind of worry about that because, sometimes the go-home shows are terrible, and I fear that they gave away a lot tonight on this episode. Maybe they can build on it, but, man, I'll be honest with you. If this was the go-home show, I walk away happy. It makes me really nervous. Can they repeat this performance? Can they make things as interesting as they did tonight? I don't know. I really don't know if they set themselves up for failure or not, but I kind of feel like they did in a way for next week.
And do you think maybe they have? Do they have the other Paul show up here next week or at Clash of Champions?
To what?
I don't know. I mean, they're fighting over the whole. Well, I used to be your boy, now I'm not your boy. Does Stephanie sort of get behind Rollins again and kind of proclaim that, and maybe it gets Triple H to get involved? I don't know. I mean, it's got to be leading to him showing up again at some point, right? If we're going to have Kevin Owens really proclaim that he's sort of got Triple H behind him.
I mean, I would think so at some point. I don't know if it has to be in the ring or not, though. Certainly just... I mean, obviously, I think you have to set something up with Stephanie to come in and all this to flesh out that side of the story at least. But I don't know if you have to do it in the ring. I'm sure they will, but...
Oh, no, I just meant like if we see Triple H as a character again to be involved at some point. I mean like he's going to be wrestling or anything. Just from here to Clash of Champions, do we see him again?
You got to do something with him and Seth at some point, I think. That's where this is going. Whether that's at Mania, whether that's these guys fielding teams at Survivor Series, whatever. I think this eventually ends with Seth Rollins and Triple H in the ring one-on-one.
Which I would like to see. I think you get a much better match than what you got with Roman and Triple H.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for Raw on this evening. We just got to do a rating here.
For the most part, I really enjoyed the show, like I said, and I think that they had some things that worked out to really kind of push their agenda, and that's, of course, that whole basically list of the different matches that they want to happen. And the card looks pretty decent here now after they kind of showcased all the different feuds that are taking place. And I'm happy for a lot of it. There were some parts in Raw, yes, that were just kind of like, this is the normal stuff I can kind of fast forward through in Raw. But for the most part, they did have some really entertaining stuff. So I'm going to give this probably maybe a 7.5. I actually kind of enjoyed this Raw. I don't know, 8's a little strong, but I think a 7.5 is good.
I don't know that I would put it in anywhere near the echelon of like the Backlash that we just watched yesterday.
This is an episode of a TV show. This is not a pay-per-view rating. I kind of grade them a little differently. I don't rate them towards pay-per-views or anything like that.
I would say like a 6.5 maybe on this scale. I think you had 2 matches that were very good. And some stuff here in the good range as well as far as wrestling wise. You had some good stories that kind of rehabbed everybody, and we'll have to see. It's sort of building, but again, like it's one of those things where you're talking about the go home show not always being the best. I mean, I'd hate for them to do all this building and then you have next week happen and it doesn't turn out that great, but. We'll have to see when we get there, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that they really pushed the cruiserweights hard on this one because of the special being on Wednesday, which we'll obviously cover on the Thursday W2 episode. And, making them seem like they're really going to invest in them when they come, at least they're making it seem that way, that they're going to invest in them come Monday.
Yeah, you hope so. We'll see. But, that's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. I am. So, that's our Raw for this week. We, of course, will be doing SmackDown Live tomorrow for all you guys and gals that want to get some fallout from Backlash. Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a pretty interesting show. Plus, we also have some other stuff happening this week. We have our normal episode of Wrestling to the Max, Part 1. That'll be taking place actually tonight. We'll record it after we do this one. And then, of course, if you want to come catch us for some other discussions, we'll be doing another show Friday on the download for you guys. So you don't want to miss that one as well. That'll be Part 2. We'll be talking more NXT, Lucha Underground. Of course, we'll be talking Cruiserweight Classic stuff. And a lot of other great stuff you don't want to miss, including TNA Impact. So, but, besides that, guys, we've got a great list of stuff for you to go check out. Of course, the best way to go find that, stuff is W2Mnet.com. That's right. Go there and check it out. Not only is it wrestling, there's tons of wrestling stuff, but we also have sports. Like, we got football, all the football action, top 25, college football. We also got fantasy rankings, power rankings for the NFL. We got a ton of different cool stuff. Of course, the video game section is rocking and rolling. We got a lot of cool stuff on this, so go check that out. Plus, don't forget, once again, if you don't know about it or you need to tell a friend, go to the W2M network, and that's where you can subscribe and you can add all the podcasts on the network. We want you guys to go do that. If you haven't, please go rate and review as well. That really helps us out. So, besides that, guys, we will see you down the road. Until then, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.